Hi, everyone. I'd like to thank you for joining us for the first session of our MyOutcomes 101 webinar series, Passwords and Provider Limits. Thank you for joining us either live with us right now or listening to a recorded version at a later date. My name is Taylon, and I'm joined by MyOutcomes Vice President Cindy Hansen.
Hello, everybody.
We are located right now in our head office in Kelowna, British Columbia, Canada. We would like to take about 15 to 20 minutes and present on two topics, followed by a short question and answer period. The questions during the question and answer period do not necessarily have to relate to any topics covered during this presentation. And aside from myself and Cindy, we have on hand a member from our technical support team and client services department. If any questions do come up during the presentation, please go ahead and ask them in the Ask a Question section of the GoToWebinar panel, and we will answer them either during the webinar or at the end as time allows. As many of you may already know, we are in the middle of a formal feedback collection movement within the industry. Many are now realizing the benefits and feasibility of practicing feedback-informed therapy using programs like PCOMS and its online version, MyOutcomes. In the past year, MyOutcomes has doubled our sales team and restructured our support department due to this increased volume. But we as a company are more importantly finding growth within agencies and organizations that are already using MyOutcomes. Thus leading us to our first topic for this webinar, activating and deactivating providers.
If you're one of the agencies where your usage of MyOutcomes is growing, then it is necessary to understand how to manipulate the MyOutcomes tree structure so that it is tailored to your specific organization's needs. As you may recall in previous versions of MyOutcomes, the way in which you distinguish between active providers and former providers was to put them on a dead branch of the tree under a supervisor that was dedicated for providers who are no longer with your organization. In version 11, we have implemented a deactivation feature to make sense of this. If a provider has moved on from your organization, you'll need to deactivate them as to not be charged for any subscriptions you do not require. It is important to note if the clients under this provider are going to be seen by another member of your agency, you will first need to move them under the proper provider before deactivating them. In order to deactivate a provider, you will right-click on the provider and select Delete or Deactivate Provider. Deleting the provider eliminates all accounts of this provider from your agency's account. They will no longer be able to be reactivated. Deactivating a provider simply hides the provider from your organization's tree and can be reactivated if need be. To show and hide deactivated providers, simply click or unclick the checkbox next to Show Inactive or Closed at the top of the tree. To reactivate a provider, simply right-click on the provider and select Activate Provider. They will then appear as normal in your tree. Deactivation and all other processes shown in this presentation can be completed in the tree structure like I will demonstrate, or in the dashboard panel to the right. As mentioned previously, we have seen a large growth within many MyOutcomes clients. This means that those of you who initiated PCOMS and MyOutcomes within your organization are largely influencing others to join as well. Having this occur means that owners, administrators, and supervisors are going to need to know how to add those new members who are now seeing the benefits of tracking and measuring outcomes. The way this is accomplished is by locating the supervisor in your tree in which you want the provider to be under. Right-click on that supervisor and select Create New Provider. Here you will enter the provider's information. It is important to select the checkbox underneath Send Password Instructions Now. This will send the user their user ID and password to log into their new account. Then select Create Provider. The provider will be sent 2 emails from support@myoutcomes.com. The first will have the subject line, Your new MyOutcomes account. This will provide them with their user ID. The second will also be from support@myoutcomes.com with subject line, MyOutcomes Access. This email will contain a link where they will be able to create a password for their new account. It is important to note that this link on a new account is live for 7 days.
Okay, folks, it looks like we don't have any questions here, so we're going to move right along into our next topic. Just a reminder, if you do have any questions, to put them in the Ask a Question feature of GoToWebinar or the chat function, and we'll answer them as we go along. So I'll get started with our next topic here.
The second topic of our webinar has to do with our new password features. As many of you have probably realized, our password retrieval process has slightly changed. Before, if you located a user in the tree, right-clicked on their account, and selected Update Provider, you would be able to see their current password on this screen. Passwords are now one-way encrypted, meaning that only the user knows his or her own password. Account owners, administrators, and supervisors do not know their team members' passwords, and neither does our support team. This is thought of as best practice when dealing with personal health information and is now the standard for all MyOutcomes accounts. The process of retrieving passwords is now through a password link. This link is sent to the primary email on the requested account, either when a new account is set up in the tree, like illustrated previously when the creator selected the checkbox Send User Information, or when the user goes through the Forgot Password process on the login page. On the login page, if the user does not remember the password, they simply select Forgot Password. Here, they will enter their user ID and their email address, and their new password link will be sent to their primary email on their account. The link will be sent to the email on the user's account from support@myoutcomes.com. It will have a subject line, MyOutcomes Access. It is important to check your junk mail if you have not received the email within a few minutes. When you click on the link in the email, it will bring you to our retrieval password process. On this screen, you will enter your user ID, then you will enter a new password. It is important to note that your password must have a minimum of 7 characters, 1 symbol, and 1 number. Password also must have at least 1 capital letter. Now, you may go back to the home page and log in with your new password. If a user has forgotten their email on file, they will need to contact their account supervisor, administrator, or owner for this information. For a forgotten user ID, you may also contact the supervisor, administrator, or owner, or you can go to the login page and select Forgot User ID. Here, they will enter their email on file, and their user ID will be sent to the primary email address on the user's account.
Okay, looks like we got a few questions in the second part there. So the first one, Cindy's going to answer the first two, and I can go ahead and answer the last one here. So someone's wondering how MyOutcomes works, if it does it all, on Internet Explorer version 8.
Yes, yes, we do work on Internet Explorer version 8, also 9 and 10, as well as Firefox, Google Chrome, and Safari, the latest versions, as well as the iPad and Android operating system.
Okay,
what was the next question?
Nothing before version 8, though, is that right?
That's right.
Okay. The second question here is, what is the status of, if it's in the process at all, of a MyOutcomes app that will be available to the public?
Yeah, good question. We get that one a lot. We definitely are working on developing an app this year for the iPhone, the iPad, the tablet, and the Android tablet. We feel that MyOutcomes, just with the regular login, is working satisfactorily. But we are going to be coming out with an app within the next year. So stay tuned for that.
Okay, great. And this next one, I can go ahead and answer. Is it possible to change the email of a user after the initial setup of a user, of a provider? And the answer is yes. You go in your tree structure or in the panel to update any user. In the top here under Update Provider, it will say Update Email and Contact Name. If you go ahead and click that, you can then update the email or the name of the user.
Okay, so that brings us to the end, I guess. Short and sweet today. Thanks, Taylon, for your instructions. And I think if anyone has any additional questions, feel free to contact Taylon. I know, Taylon, seeing the list here, you've been speaking to some of these people already, and
definitely. My direct line, if anyone has any further questions regarding these topics or any other ones, is 250-763-4744. I'll put that information in the chat function here along with my email. Again, thank you for joining, and have a great day.